Well, hello and welcome to this English lesson about storage. You might think this is a strange topic, but as I thought about a lesson idea, one of the ideas on my list was to talk about storage. We all own a lot of things. As you go through life, you accumulate things, you buy things. By the way, accumulate means you get more and more. And you need to put all of those things somewhere, whether it's knives and forks in the kitchen, whether it's a camera that you just bought, whether it's something like the laptop that you take back and forth to work. It's nice to have a place to store things. So then in English, storage is the word we use to talk about the places we put things when we want to be organized. In fact, I like the phrase, in your house, everything should have a home. Your cups should have a home. Your computer should have a home. If everything has a home in your home, if there's storage for everything, your house is very, very organized. So once again, welcome to this English lesson about storage. So the idea for this lesson started when I was looking for my suit jacket in my closet. A closet is a small little, it's not really a room. It's a space in a room or in a hallway with a door usually, where you can store things, usually clothing. Although we do have a closet where we just store boxes of old clothes and boxes of things we don't use anymore. But generally, a bedroom closet is used to store clothing. So I have my suit jackets in there. My blue shirts hang in my closet as well. After we do laundry, we put clothes on hangers and put them in the closet, so on coat hangers. Closets are really, really nice because you can put all your stuff in there and close the doors, and then everything is neat and tidy. Now, you heard me say bedroom closet. That's how we describe closets. We put the word in front if we want to say where it is. So bedroom closet, upstairs hallway closet, downstairs closet, back room closet, living room closet. Whenever you talk about a closet, you just put the room name in front, and that's where that closet is. Shelf, probably the next most common place to store things would be a shelf. There are things like bookshelves. There are just normal shelves where you put a variety of things, but you probably in your house have a few shelves. Notice the plural, we lose the F and add a V. A shelf is a nice place to put things if you want to be able to see them still. I have a shelf in my old studio where I have all my camera gear. When I need a camera, I go to that shelf and grab one. So it's nice to have a shelf for that. And we used to have shelves in our kitchen, but we replaced them with cupboards. Drawer. So the next most common place to store things would be in a drawer. Notice how I'm pronouncing this word, drawer. It's kind of a weird sound, isn't it? Drawer. It looks like drawer, but a drawer is someone who draws. Oh, my friend's a good drawer. But this is a drawer. This is a drawer. I've said it enough times now, I think. A drawer pulls out. You can open a drawer and close a drawer. And again, when you're referring to a drawer, you can mention the room as well. It's in one of the kitchen drawers. It's in one of the drawers in your dresser in the bedroom. So you can kind of mention where it is. But a drawer is handy. You can put small things in. This looks like a drawer in a teacher's desk. Desks also have drawers, because it has a lot of pens and Sharpies and elastics. It definitely looks like the drawer in my desk at school. And then we have, of course, the cupboard. Another strange pronunciation. It's cupboard. In our kitchen, we have kitchen cupboards. So we keep our plates, we keep food in our cupboards. When the cupboards are bare, it means there's no food in the cupboard. But definitely a cupboard is a nice place. You have a door, you open the cupboard, you put things in the cupboard. When you come home from getting groceries, you put the groceries away in the cupboard. So we go to the grocery store, we buy groceries, we come home, we unpack the bags, and we put the groceries away. We put the groceries in the cupboard. Nice, handy. Usually drawers and cupboards go together. You can see there are cupboards on the bottom and there's a row of drawers here. So kitchen cupboards and kitchen drawers. And then there's another word, cabinet. And we use this word kind of interchangeably with cupboard. So I can say I keep my food in my kitchen cabinets, or I keep my food in my kitchen cupboards. Cabinets are, it's, I guess, a little more formal way to say it. Sometimes people will put some cabinets in their garage to store things. But cupboards are usually, I think that's the more common way to refer to them. You know, we have lots of cupboard space in our kitchen. That means we have lots of cupboards to put things in. We have lots of kitchen cabinets. Cubbyhole. So this might be one of the first ones that you might not know. A cubbyhole is a small square storage area. Probably the most common place where you'll see a cubbyhole is at a school, especially for younger children. When kids are 6 or 7 or 8 in their classroom, they might have a cubbyhole where they can keep their stuff. So a cubbyhole refers to, it's usually square. It could be round, but most furniture is square. And it's a little place where you put things like backpacks or bags. There was a gym I used to go to where when I went to the gym, I had a little cubbyhole I could put my stuff in. The gym I go to now, though, I have a locker, and I'll talk about lockers in a bit. But a cubbyhole, just a small little area where you can store your belongings. That's how we refer to the things you own when you go somewhere. You might go to a variety of different places where you might find a cubbyhole. So when you store paper or when you store folders or when you store important documents, you will probably put them in a file cabinet. I actually have one right there. I can't show you because it's a mess. As I talk about storage and organization, the room behind me is always neat and tidy. So this is usually neat and tidy behind me, but the rest of the room behind the camera is a bit of a mess. I need to store things better, but I do have a file cabinet. It's a place where when you get important things in the mail, if you need to keep them, you put them in the file cabinet. Yesterday, I renewed the license plates for my vehicles. And so I printed out the renewal and stored one copy in the glove compartment of our vehicle and one in my file cabinet. By the way, I didn't put glove compartment on the list of storage. I should have done that. File cabinet, great place to store paper. You'll probably see a lot of these in an office building. And then locker, I mentioned this briefly earlier. Sometimes when you go to a gym, you will get changed in a change room and you will put your stuff in a locker. A locker is usually a steel cabinet. It's usually made out of metal. It usually locks, hence the name locker. It usually locks and your belongings are then secure when you go to work out. They're also very popular in schools. In North America, particularly at a high school. A high school will often have lockers in the hallway, and a student will be given a locker at the beginning of the year. Your locker number 93, they'll say. And then you will have a place to put your backpack and your textbooks and your computer, laptop, and then you can put a combination lock on it. So a locker, another really nice place to store things. And then we have something in North America. I'm not sure if everyone has this in the world, but it's called a storage locker or self-storage. North Americans, some of them, have so much stuff, it doesn't all fit in their house. This is kind of a weird thing about North America. So some people, not everyone, but some people will rent a storage locker or they'll rent a locker at a self-storage facility and they'll keep some of their things in a locker. If you've ever watched the show Storage Wars, that's when someone doesn't pay for their locker. And so then the company auctions off their stuff. Look it up if you haven't seen it. It's an interesting peek into North American life. And of course, a lot of people have a garage as part of their house. You can see in the bottom photo, this is a garage door. And often people will put shelves in their garage or other things so that they can store stuff. So here you see they have a lot of containers. They've put their things in containers and put them on shelves. So our garage as well has a large shelf in it, and we store many, many things in our garage. It's just a great place to store things. Basement. So a lot of North American houses have what's called a basement. This is the area of the house which is below ground. So we go down our basement stairs and we have a basement. North Americans don't often live in their basements. They might have a living room. They might have 1 or 2 bedrooms down there, but they might also have a large area like this. Let me make this a bit bigger for you. So we as well have an area in our basement where it's not for living, it's for storage. You can see these people have built a lot of shelves in their basement. Often you will keep camping gear in your basement, like tents. You might keep your Christmas tree in your basement if you have a fake Christmas tree, and all of your Christmas decorations. You usually buy a lot of boxes and containers, and I'll talk about those in a bit. But many people will have a storage area in their basement, and they will store a lot of things down there. We do that, definitely. Our Christmas tree is in our basement right now on a shelf. And people sometimes will have a small shed in their yard. So they'll either buy a shed. A shed is a small building specifically for storage, or people might build a shed. The interesting thing in Canada is you can build a shed that's 10 feet by 10 feet, and you don't need a building permit. You don't need permission from the government. But a shed, again, is a small building, and people will keep their lawnmower, their garden tools, and those types of things in it. It's a great place to store things that you need to use when you do yard work. When you are gardening, it's nice to have a shed with all your gardening tools in it. In fact, some people call it a garden shed. Let's talk about the things you can store stuff in. This might go a little quicker. Sorry if I talk too fast. I'll try to talk my normal speed. The simplest place to store something is in a box. We order things from Amazon. Those things come in boxes, and we keep the boxes because the cardboard box, this is a cardboard box, it's really handy for storing things. I like to have boxes to put things in. In fact, beside my file cabinet is a stack of boxes with stuff in them. So the most basic thing to store things in would be a box. And here we have a storage box. I just wanted to highlight that sometimes we add the word storage to things to indicate what it's for. This box is handy because it has a lid. In English, when we say something's handy, it means it's very, very useful. So definitely box and storage box are two common things that people use to store things. And then if you have valuable things, like if you have jewelry, by the way, this is the North American spelling of jewelry. So there might be an extra L and E if you are learning British English. But often people will have a jewelry box, and they'll keep their rings, their bracelets, they'll keep their necklaces. By the way, if you're wondering what happened, you can see I'm a little bit scratched up here. I was working in the field and there were a lot of thistles. Thistles are a type of plant with prickly things on it, and my arms got scratched up a little bit. So now I have a burn that's healing and my arms are scratching up. Sorry, this has nothing to do with the lesson. Let me continue. A jewelry box is handy for storing earrings, rings, bracelets, necklaces. I think I've mentioned most of the things that you would store in a jewelry box. And usually people will keep this in their bedroom because one of the first things you might do in the morning is put on your jewelry, and you might take it off at the end of the day. In our kitchen, we have a lot of containers. Now, there's a few different words for these containers. You could just say food container. At the end of a meal, we put our leftovers in a food container. You could call it a plastic container. Some people refer to all of this as Tupperware. Tupperware is a brand name of containers you can buy to use in the kitchen. And some people have started to call them Ziploc containers. Remember, a Ziploc bag, if you squeeze it, it closes. But Ziploc also makes containers, and people have started to call them that. So container, food container, storage container, Tupperware, Ziploc, whatever you want to call it. The things you use to store food. And we also have what's called a crate. Excuse me. A crate. Oh, let me make that a bit smaller. A crate is usually open on the top, although the one pictured, it does have a lid. This is a variety of crates. They can be made out of wood. They can be made out of plastic. And they're used to not just store things, but to ship things. So when a company builds something, they'll put it in a crate and they'll send it on a truck or a boat in the crate. Now, when a crate gets to its destination, people often use the crate to store things. It's a handy little, I guess it's kind of a box. We have, you see this black one here. In Canada, this is called a milk crate. because milk comes in bags in Canada. So they put the bags in the crate, but they're a really handy thing to have. We use a lot of them on the flower farm. Anyways, these are crates, just handy little things. I guess you could say boxes that are used to move things. And then we have basket. So a basket is a little different than a box or crate. A basket often, if you poured water in a basket, it would run out. So a basket has some airflow. We use baskets at the grocery store. So these are baskets you would grab if you're buying groceries. We also use them to store laundry. That's a laundry basket way on the other side. Baskets can be made out of plastic, or they might be woven out of different kinds of material. And then we have, of course, the bag. Now, a bag can be a knapsack. A bag can be like this one that you would carry. It's kind of something with handles that you can put things in. It's not exactly for storage, although it can be. I mean, I have bags that I put cameras in. I have a camera bag. So you can have a bag that's used for storage. I usually keep my camera in a camera bag. In our garage, we have a few hooks. In the barn, we have hooks. By our front door, we have hooks. Hooks are anything that you can hang something on. When I come home, I have hooks over there, and I can hang my coat on a hook. In the garage, we have hooks, and we can hang garden tools on the hooks. Hooks are nice. And you always hang something on a hook. That's the verb you use in English. So the other day when I came home, I was wearing my jacket. I took off my jacket and I hung my jacket up on a hook. In the winter, when I get home, next winter, when I come home, I will hang my coat up every day on a hook. And this is the picture I wanted to show you. This isn't my actual bottle. Sometimes people use a bottle to store things. When I was a kid, I didn't have a piggy bank. I had a bottle just like this one. I got it from some Italian friends who used them to they would make wine, and this would be their wine bottle. And they gave me an empty bottle once, and then I used that bottle to keep all of my money in. So if I got a quarter from my grandma, or if I found a dime in the street, whenever I found coins, I would put them in my bottle. So this was kind of my piggy bank when I was a kid. This is how I stored money. But yes, people use bottles to store all kinds of things. And then there's barrels. So barrels typically used, probably the most popular thing is for wine. Wine is often aged in barrels. Barrels are used to make whiskey and all different kinds of alcoholic beverages. Even up till a while ago, I think you could buy pickles in a barrel. Pickles are cucumbers that are in a like a salt brine solution, but a barrel definitely looks like this. There are plastic barrels as well. We buy certain things for the farm in barrels. Usually a barrel is, if you put it on its side, you can roll it. Sorry, I'm knocking my mic here. But a barrel is another cool place to store usually liquids, I think. Although pickles, I guess pickles are in salt water, or brine. A toolbox. If you are someone who likes to fix things, you will probably have tools. The best place to keep your tools is in a toolbox. The worst place to keep your tools is the last place you use them. I'm guilty of leaving my tools in the last place where I use them. Sometimes I forget to bring them back to the toolbox, or I forget to put them in the toolbox, or hang them on the hooks that we have. We have hooks as well for different tools. But a toolbox is a small box made out of metal or plastic, and it's a great place to store your hammer, your screwdrivers, your wrenches, and all the other tools that you use. So a mailbox isn't really a storage area, but at my place of work, I have a mailbox, and I actually use it to store things a little bit. Sometimes I put things in my mailbox just so that I know where they are. We don't use our mailboxes as much anymore because we use email a lot more. So we have these little storage, you could almost call them cubby holes, but we have these little mailbox slots at our school. And sometimes I keep some paperwork in there so that I know where it is. So we're going to talk a little bit about a trunk. And I think the next phrase is trunk. So trunk, let me make these bigger. Trunk, trunk. So this is a trunk. We might also call this a chest. I'll talk about a chest in a minute. Some people will have a trunk and they'll store old clothing in there. Some people will keep their winter clothes in a trunk during the summer. So they'll put their winter coat and their hat and mittens in a trunk because they don't need it for a few months. So they might have a large trunk somewhere and they put things in there. Often people will have a trunk in their attic or in their basement. I'll talk about attics in a bit. But a trunk is a place where you can keep things. I think it's very common in Canada to put all your winter clothes in a trunk and then take them out in the late fall when it gets cold again. And then trunk of a car. We don't call this a boot in Canada. We call this the trunk. You don't really store things in the trunk, but I thought because I'm talking about trunks, I should talk about trunks. A trunk is a little storage area in a car. And I should have mentioned glove box or glove compartment as well. That's a small storage area inside the car where you can keep things like gloves if you wanted to. But I don't actually know that many people that keep gloves in their glove box. It's kind of a funny thing. But yes, that is a trunk. So chest. There's not a whole lot of difference between a trunk and a chest, although I would not call this a trunk because it has legs on it. I know that's kind of weird. Maybe that's just me. I would call this a trunk, and because this has legs, I would call it a chest. So maybe that's the difference. But a chest, again, is a large wooden or plastic or metal box where you can store things. Now there's a unique kind of chest or trunk called a footlocker. This is a common thing for people to have at the end of their bed. Not everyone, but a footlocker is kind of a nice lockable case, I guess, or chest. I'm just going to call it a footlocker. This is a footlocker. I'll just call it that. When I went to university, a lot of students had footlockers in their room because you shared the room with another person. You had a roommate, and you might have a few things that you wanted to keep secure or safe. And so you might have a footlocker that you could lock, and then your roommate couldn't pry and look at all of your stuff when you were gone. I never had a footlocker at university, but then I didn't really have much of anything at university. I just had my books and my brain. A pallet. This is also called a skid. A pallet is something that they use in factories. When they build things, they put them on pallets, and then they put the pallets on trucks using forklifts. A pallet is designed so the forklift can lift it. But often pallets can be used as well to store things. We store things on pallets in our shed. On our farm, we have pallets. We store hay on pallets, so there's airflow. At some places, they store things on pallets because they need to be able to move them easily. So a pallet, or what can also be called a skid, looks like this. I think pallet is the more common word, and it's a great place to store things. And then we have, of course, the shipping container. I think everyone has seen one of these. A shipping container is a large metal box, but it's definitely bigger than a box. A shipping container is used to ship things, but people have started to use shipping containers to store things. In our area, sometimes instead of building a shed, people will buy an old shipping container and a truck will bring it to their place, and then they will put it in their backyard and they will store things in it. In fact, it became a bit of a problem. So in my area, I'm pretty sure there's a law now that you can't buy shipping containers and use them to store things. I'll have to double check that, but people were getting very upset because there were so many shipping containers. But definitely used to ship things and also where you can store things. So I mentioned earlier that I store my camera in a camera case. You can also call it a camera bag. In fact, that's what I think I called it earlier. When I go somewhere, I take my camera bag and it has my camera in it. But I also store my camera in my camera bag. So the camera I'm using now, when I'm done this live stream, I will put it back in my camera case. I keep it in my camera bag or camera case during the week so that in case I don't want it to, I don't want someone to knock it over or accidentally touch the lens. So I want to keep it safe. So I store it in my camera case. Notice camera bag and camera case are interchangeable. Then we have what's called a bin. A standard bin looks like this. You can't quite see it, but above the recycle symbol, there's actually, it says Rubbermaid on it. Rubbermaid makes a lot of bins. This wasn't the type of Rubbermaid bin I meant though, but a bin is a place where usually it's open on the top and you can throw things in. You might have a trash bin, you might have a recycle bin, you might just have a bin. You know, grab that bin and fill it up with some newspapers, right? It's just a handy container that you can use to store things. Let's see here, dresser. So in the bedroom of most houses, you will have a dresser. The dresser will have drawers in it. So in our bedroom, we have 2 dressers. Jen uses one and I use the other. And this is where we keep our clothes. After we wash our clothes and after we hang our clothes up to dry, we don't use a dryer, we hang our clothes up to dry. Then we fold our clothes and we put them in our dresser drawers. Dresser drawers. That's hard to say, isn't it? This dresser has drawers. I put my clothes in my dresser drawers. There you go. Try saying that 5 times. Some people have a walk-in closet. If you have lots of money, or if you were lucky enough to buy a house with walk-in closets, I think they're really, really nice. A walk-in closet is similar to a closet, but it's so big that you can walk into it. Okay? So when you have a walk-in closet, it means that you can walk in and you can look at all your clothing. I wish I had a walk-in closet sometimes, but I don't. I'm sure some of you have walk-in closets, but I do not. Handy walk-in closets. I have a nightstand. I keep my Fitbit and my wedding ring in the drawer of my nightstand. So when I go to sleep at night, I take off my wedding ring and my Fitbit. By the way, this is a fitness tracker called a Fitbit, and I put them in a drawer in my nightstand. It's a nice place to store them during the night because then I know exactly where they are the next morning. A windowsill. So some people store things on a windowsill. So here you can see they have some plants there and a few tiny, tiny gourds or mini pumpkins. We sometimes store our mail on our windowsill. When we get the mail, we bring it home and we put it on our windowsill and we might open it later. When we get magazines, we store magazines on our windowsill in our kitchen so that if I'm eating a snack, I can grab a magazine to read. But a windowsill is a little ledge in front of a window, and sometimes the ledge is big enough that you can store things on it. So that is a windowsill. And of course, a desk, usually you have desk drawers. You might store things on your desk, but you might also store things in the drawers. My desk drawers have paper for my printer. So when I need paper, I open one of the drawers. When I order new paper, I put it in one of my desk drawers, and that is where I store my paper. So if the printer ran out of paper and Jen needed paper, she would say, "Where do you store your paper?" And I would say, "It's in the desk drawer." And then she would grab some paper, put it in the printer. A wallet is a great place to store things. I don't think my wallet is right. Oh, it's way over there. But a wallet is a place where you store money, where you store credit cards, where you store debit cards, which is a card connected to your bank account. And a wallet is not just for men. Women can have wallets as well. This is definitely a man's wallet. It's you might call it a billfold as well, but I call it a wallet. Like Jen has a wallet and I have a wallet. It's a gender neutral term for something you use to store money, ID cards, credit cards, and those types of things. You might have a purse. Now, I had to ask Jen and my daughter what the difference was between a purse and a handbag. They said that a purse is usually smaller and has a strap so you can hang it from your shoulder, whereas a handbag can be a little bigger and usually just has handles on top. So once again, I'm not an expert. I don't own a purse or a handbag, but a purse I think is usually a bit smaller and has a strap, and a handbag is usually a bit bigger and has handles. Earlier I mentioned the word attic. So an attic is usually, not usually, an attic is something some people in North America have, usually in an older house, and it's a room way at the top, and usually the ceiling is the actual inside of the roof. So you can see in this one too, the attic space is not a space where people live. Oftentimes it's not heated in the winter, but an attic is a large storage area for some people. So they might store things in the attic. In fact, the same way we store things in our basement, some people store the same things in their attic. We don't have an attic. This house was built in 1981, and that is considered a more modern home design, even though that's like over 40 years ago. And they didn't build attics anymore. They started to put more insulation in houses. So the attic space, or an attic as a room, kind of disappeared in North America, especially in the northern parts of North America. Some people still have attics though. They are a nice place to store things. And then I put this as the last slide because I thought this was funny. These aren't my children, but my kids, as they grew up, when they were little, they would store a lot of things on the floor. If you walked in their room, you wouldn't be able to walk because all their toys would be on the floor. It's not a good place to store things, especially if you're a dad and if you have to go and talk to a child at night because they're crying and you're trying to walk across the room in the dark, you often step on things. So don't store things on the floor. But I'm sure if you have children or if you have friends with children, you'll recognize that kids often will store things on the floor. Not the best place to store things.